let's rock and roll.
Where were you at when this idea of a new EP, Unpopular Music for Popular People Vol.1, hit you? Because you had to have giggled like a child when that idea came to you.
Yes, it's a kind of a process, but I've been recording demos for a really long time. And during COVID, I was just going out of my head, out of boredom. And I found a few people that were willing to come out and go into the studio and help replace some of the drum loops with some real drums. And I just figured this is about the best time to ever try and just get out and do some of my music. And yeah, I have 5 songs mixed and mastered, which I suppose would be my 5-song EP, and I still have another good 5 or 6 in the can that could be Volume 2 if I ever get them to get mixed and mastered and cross the finish line and be able to share them with you and everybody else. Sure.
Yeah. Are you redefining the term punk music? Because, there's such a great vibration in there, and it reminds me so much of the early days of punk.
Hey, that's a great question, and punk is just one small component of the music that I grew up with and love. I would not dare say I'm a punk artist because I love it, but I also love classic rock and, progressive music and, just every flavor of heavy metal. So everything that I love is just kind of thrown into the mixture, and all the while, as hard as it is, and I know most songwriters will tell you the same thing, to try and define and find your own voice without channeling your other influences, well, yeah, it's kind of a chore.
You talked about, the classic rock vibe. I love the song Stepping Stone in the way that, man, when those vocals set in, woo! You are saying, hold on, because we're going to go real fast now.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you listened to it and liked it. That's awesome, bro.
So let me ask you this question. Did it start out that way? Or is this something that when you're sitting inside that studio that you're going, no, we need to put more tempo to it?
Well, as far as that song goes in particular, and most everyone, I write a song, and by and large, I'm at my computer with some drum loops, so whatever tempo I set in the recording software, for the most part, that's where it has to stay. Everything, all my guitars and everything have been recorded to the drum loops, and when the drummer gets there, he has to conform to the tempo. But live, it can be anything. It can be different. It doesn't have to be the way it was recorded.
Edge of Eternity also had such a cool vibe, and I know you're big on harmonies. That song just kind of takes you somewhere else. It does feel a little ethereal. I had a really good time listening to that song. Tell us more about how that came to be.
Edge of Eternity. Well, I dare say that's probably like my own personal Bohemian Rhapsody and Stairway to Heaven. I really wanted to do something on that monumental level. And, those types of songs from the 70s where bands didn't worry so much about format or genre per se, or, verse, chorus, verse type of arrangements. And they just really tried to be the best artist that they could be in that moment. That's what I was shooting for.
Did you film any of this? Because this is the kind of stuff that maybe because we're students of the industry, just to watch you piece all of this together. Because when you take a song, Bohemian Rhapsody, and mix it up like Stairway to Heaven, it's like, my God, that should have been filmed.
Well, as far as any live performances, is that what you mean? Not really. I have a couple small clips of the drummers who came in and performed the music. I do have videos, but I'm an animation student. I love 3D animation and working with Photoshop and After Effects and Blender, if you know those programs. So I did make some animated videos to go along with Edge of Eternity and Stepping Stone.
Well, that's one of the first things that Carrie, who's one of the students here, she took notice of your videos, was the animation.
Cool. Hi, Carrie.
Rule the World on the lyric video. I wanted to ask, tell us about your lyric video. I hadn't seen something like that before. It had its own story, but the way Arrow explained it to me, it seemed like it was about the words, hearing the words and knowing the words, but there was a story with the video. So it was supposed to be like in sync with that.
Well, I guess what's that little saying? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
And as far as interpretation, I don't know. I mean, over the past few years, I've just been really teaching myself how to create 3D animation, and I'm a big science fiction fan. I love creating robots and monsters and strange ethereal worlds. So, I mean, literally, I had about 15 or 20 of these smaller clips of the robots going in up and down different, planetary adventures. And I figured, well, maybe it's better just to put this stuff up there than look at my ugly face in a video. So I just kind of stitched them all together, and after a while, it became cohesive. And I was happy with that.
Discovering the hook of a song, how long does it take you to get to it? And do you play by radio's rules in the way that radio people always say, if you don't have me hooked in 25 seconds, it's going in the trash?
Oh, yeah. Well, within the industry, hooks are everything. Sure, that's what sells. That's what people chant at concerts. But as far as, conceiving a hook, well, some days they happen right on the fly within a minute. You just get a weird idea in your head and you write it down or work on it while you're playing your guitar. Other times it takes a little while for it to appear, if it ever does.
Yeah, because you talked about that this project came together during the COVID lockdown, but much of this music was probably already written well before you even stepped into that studio.
Well, some of it, a lot of it was in bits and pieces, and a lot of it somewhat on the fly. I had to fill in the blanks and just kind of patch it together as I became more serious about really putting a package together and getting my music out once and for all. Sure.
Well, I'm sure it's great to get this all together on an album and get it out there. Are you going to put it on vinyl?
I would love to.
I would love to hear it on vinyl.
Well, I actually, on my own behalf, called a couple record manufacturing outfits, some plants, and, I got some numbers on how much it costs to put an album together. It could be like anywhere from $5 to $8 for somebody to make their own records, depending on the packaging, the weight of the LP itself in grams, all the little things. But I'm not a great personal salesman, and I don't want 1,000 records sitting in my garage that I'll never be able to sell.
You got to distribute those things for sure.
I did that once with CDs like 20 years ago. It's like you're just giving them away for free after a while, whatever. But I would like to find some distribution, perhaps somebody that would be interested in working with me and getting the music out worldwide on that level. That would be fantastic.
Well, absolutely, and I think your music has what it takes to bring that to people who do love vinyl, love music, and I mean that sound is so unique. Going back to the album, I loved "Rule the World," and I thought the message was maybe a little something that's currently going on in the world. Did that have anything to do with any dictators or anybody that you? I'm just curious who the inspiration was.
Well, the last thing I ever want to talk at the dinner table is, politics and religion.
So true.
There's a golden rule there, but in today's current state of affairs, and it's funny, I was just thinking that yesterday when I was out walking my dog. It's just that I don't think anything that is really happening today may or may not be anything different than 1,000 or 2,000 years ago. There's always somebody who wants to rule the world.
Norm and I were talking about the music earlier today, about how he got a different experience by listening to it through headphones, and then while he was listening to it while working or changing the brakes on his car. Did you know that your music does that? That in each place that we listen to your songs, it gives us a whole completely different experience?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, okay. that's a question for like a whole hour program, just based on now I'm shifting gears and I'm putting on the music production engineering hat. Well, as you know, if you've ever created music, it's almost the curse of a music engineer because you're creating it in one environment through the studio. You may have 2 or 3 different monitor systems and some headphones. You run out to the car, you do a playback, you check things, you make sure it's as good as you can get it on the system you trust. But once it's out there, your music can be interpreted and heard in 17 million different environments and systems. So, it's kind of hard to make it sound great on any different system. You know what I mean? And the spatial differences. But when you put on headphones, and I'm glad you brought that up because I know I drove most of my mixing engineers mad because I'm such a big fan of English progressive rock where, like Yes and Pink Floyd and Genesis and all those great bands where they made such use of stereo imaging and panning and things popping in and out of the channels really quick, sometimes very subliminal, sometimes very upfront as an effect. So that was my intention. And wow, thank you for bringing that up and having such a good ear to pick up on that in the first place.
Being called an artist like no other, how do you live up to that image every time you sit down to write music?
Well, I don't know about that title. I just try and do the best I can with what I have. And if I feel if it personally moves me, that's good enough. And if anyone else out there likes it, hey, that's great too. And even if you don't like it, that's great too. It's all good, man.
So now you talked about Steely Dan there for a second and some prog rock, but at sometimes when I'm listening to the music, I can hear some glam rock too. Any David Bowie inspirations in your heart?
I love David Bowie, but it's funny. I never intentionally set out to channel any one of his songs or any of his vibes or colors. Although, growing up, that, him and 100,000 other people coming through the radio, just, you can't help but how it shapes you.
Yeah. That Fire logo. Oh, my God. What kind of an imagination went into that Fire logo? Because I am attracted to it.
Which Fire logo are you talking about?
The one that you posted today on Facebook?
Oh, was that with the little red guy playing guitar?
Yes.
Oh, that's one of my cartoon sketches.
Really? Oh, my God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's I call him the devil dog.
Dang.
Are you talking about I posted saying I just decided to make some stickers?
Now, is it using 2 different personalities when you do your animation versus the music?
I'm not too sure how to answer that. I'm just me, and I haven't sat down with a therapist to tell me I have 14 different personalities, but I'm sure I do, and they're all at war with each other.
All right, we got to talk about that song, All Due Respect. I mean, every instrument that is featured plays a very important role. You could have easily compressed the hell out of this song, but you didn't. You allow us to explore with you.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, number one, I hate compression. We've gone through 20 years of compressed, limited volume wars where everyone has to be louder than the next guy.
Yep.
And the music suffers. I put so much time and energy into my recordings with the details. And, if you're an engineer at all, just a little bit of compression will help it sit right. But when you have your little details just squashed and you can't hear them anymore, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
And, I wrestled with my mastering engineer to make sure that he didn't raise it so high that all of the detail that we fought for is gone.
You kind of touched on a tour. Are you setting yourself up for one?
I would love to be on tour, but at this moment, I'm without a band.
Oh.
I have all these things going, but I don't have a drummer or a bass player that I can rely upon. I'm searching. I'm talking to a lot of people. I've been auditioning, but nothing at the moment has congealed. But it's my goal by the end of this year to have a power trio and start playing shows. It's driving me nuts not being able to bring the music to the public.
Yeah, I bet. So where can people go to find out more about you? And I know you've got merchandise. You've got to have merchandise with that imagination you've got.
I don't really have very much anything for sale at the moment. I'm talking to a friend. He's going to print some shirts for me. I'm just making some stickers for fun.
Yeah.
My music itself, it can be downloaded on like Amazon and Spotify and all that stuff. It's there. You can listen to it for free, but if you want to buy it, hey, that's pretty cool too. I'm not going to argue with you.
Dang, I love your attitude.
Yeah, but really, I don't know the reach of your listening audience or where it goes, but if you out there happen to be part of an independent record label or even a major label, and you want to help me distribute my EP out there, let's talk.
Beautiful. What's that website?
Well, my personal website is my name, DANSINDEL, DanSindel.com. I'm on, all the regular stuff, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on social a little bit. I don't really play around with it too much. I talk to my friends on Facebook, but I'm not really big with just trying to be an Instagram type of guy.
Yeah. Well, dude, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. This door is always going to be open for you. We've done this before.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Well, man, you have yourself a brilliant night tonight, okay, Dan?
I will. And hey, everybody, thanks for your time. This is really fun. You guys are rad.